My name is Don Stott. I am a father who experienced estrangement from one of my adult children firsthand. Welcome to Beyond the Pain, a place where parents of estranged adult children can find peace and healing. In each episode, I hope to share stories that'll help you through some of your darkest hours. To bring this out of the shadows and stop being ashamed. Then to build you up and inspire you to love yourselves even more. I want to start by reminding you that I am not a therapist or a doctor. I'm just a guy who's been there and wants to help you have a life past our estranged children. If you need mental help coping with this or have thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else, please seek professional help. Welcome back, and today we're going to continue our conversation with Nancy Lee Klune, author of Banished, A Grandmother Alone. Everybody, you can't put everybody in the same round hole,
right.
With a square peg.
Right.
So
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But having said that, I think there's some basics that would help pretty much everybody.
Okay.
And I've already mentioned some of them, but I think understanding that you have no control, and to detach with love and let go with love, and
I like it.
Find your own life within you, your own being, and what's your own soul, what calls you besides your children, with whom you have an estrangement, and there's nothing we can do. I personally, speaking from myself, I did everything I could possibly think of. I could write a dictionary.
Right.
And I tried everything. I tried communicating, not communicating. I don't know, just you name it.
You signed a contract. I mean,
a damn contract.
Goodness.
Yeah. Oh, it was bizarre. It was so, and I wish I hadn't. So,
yeah.
And that was under the advice of their therapist.
Goodness.
So,
that's another thing that I've seen so much in the group and talked to some people on the podcast about these, when the kids go to these therapists like you experienced, and they tell them they're that we are toxic, or to tell us that they need to disconnect or whatever. And I'm like, you don't even know them. Yes, they could have told you the most horrible stories.
Sure. Right.
But it seems like you said earlier that that's a real ethical boundary that they cross when they tell them just without knowing anything else except for their story.
Exactly. And in my case, the story was all made up by my daughter-in-law.
Right.
And then when the therapist called me and he told me some things, and they said, you did, I said, oh my Lord, what? And then he said, I don't think your son loves you. He said that. That's why he should have lost his license. But
oh my gosh.
And I said, what? And he said, well, a son who loves his mother wouldn't treat her like this. So that stayed with me,
And even if that's true, that's a terrible thing for him to say.
Not something a therapist should say.
No, they should be trying to bring you together.
Yes.
Or just dealing with his issues, whatever those are, one of the two.
They were in couples therapy, and that's, I don't know, who cares? It's all over and done. That's fine. But my interest in talking to you and anybody else who wants to talk to me is to help mostly parents and grandparents who need to find a way to get back in life, in a real way.
Yeah, and we talked about generational stuff earlier, but I've also noticed, like, obviously we're in the US, but I have people, because I look at and I'm sure you could do the same thing with your book, but the analytics of who downloads the podcasts and whatever, there's people everywhere, all over the world, many countries, many, I'm sure, many walks of life.
Yep. Yep.
There
I
doesn't seem to be a, this is one factor, you know?
Yeah. It's amazingly.
Matter of fact, you know, the ironically, so when you do I don't know if you've ever done this before, but if you do a podcast or a YouTube channel or just record something and you're going to use someone else's intellectual property, music, you need to get their permission or you need to pay them a royalty, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I started the podcast, I'm like, I really, the music that I use was like one of the first few things that I heard, and I just loved it. I was drawn to it. And the gentleman has some music out on YouTube. He's credited it in the podcast. But so I emailed him. I'm like, listen, I'm doing this. You know, I'm not making any money at it. I just want to be able to use your music if you're okay with that. And then if something happens and I do start to monetize or whatever, then I would be happy to, you know, do that. Would you be okay with that? I kind of explained what the podcast was about and whatever. I mean, it wasn't a day or two. He emailed me back. He at points in his life had been estranged from his son,
See, I'm
and
7 degrees of separation.
yeah. So I'm like, of all of the music in the world,
Mm-hmm.
how it just it befuddled me.
Yeah. It's,
So
there are a lot of people going through it.
there are. So well, so for you, when you or do we talked about therapists for them. I mean, I know that I went when I was knee deep in it. And thankfully, and I had somebody good that kind of helped me
Oh, good.
in talking to other people. Assuming if you've talked to other people, have you heard any experiences of them? Did they seek help? Did you, you know, have any thoughts on that?
Oh, sure. I also, of course, sought therapy when all this was happening, and I had a lovely therapist who didn't actually had three, and none of them understood family estrangement. Uh,
Yeah,
I was surprised because now looking back, I bet there are more people out there who do because it's really becoming quite open. And
yeah,
uh, and I also do some coaching, and pretty much all of them have told me they worked with a therapist, but they didn't get it. The therapist didn't get
mm,
they didn't get it.
yeah,
And it's like being a parent. You don't get what it's like to be a parent unless you are a parent. You don't understand what it's like to be an alcoholic and recovering from that unless you were an alcoholic,
yeah,
or a drug addict, whatever. We really don't understand anything unless we've experienced it ourselves.
right,
We can't put ourselves in other people's shoes. It's impossible. So we do have kind of tunnel vision as humans, I think. We can
yeah,
have compassion for people and compassion for what they're going through, but we don't truly feel it or get it. So that's why I would suggest, and if you, I strongly support therapy, but find a therapist who has gone through family estrangement. I
for
mean,
sure,
they otherwise you don't understand it. They don't understand it, and a lot of them have said that the therapist made it worse for them because they
right,
like, well, you've grieved enough now, and there's no time limit on that. And you know what? You revisit it. It's cycling
absolutely,
out. You have your good days, and then you get triggered by seeing a family at a picnic,
right,
and you go, "Wow, I'm all by myself," with my dog, or maybe just my spouse or something,
right,
and then some. Oh, and this is really important. I get into this space where I imagine my son's family. He's got four great kids, and we'll see what happens down the road. But when they realize, they often in my brain go like, well, they're probably having really a fun day today. It's 4th of July, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm just wondering what they're doing. You start imagining that their life is this perfect thing.
Right.
And it's not. They're human like we are. They're having their challenges and everything as well. And
Yeah.
and so we have to watch our thoughts. It's so important. We have to take the thoughts that hurt us and throw them out. Let them see them dissipating,
Yeah.
and them dissipating. You have to be tough on yourself and not indulge, these thoughts about, all the wonderful things they are or they're doing, because it's a fantasy.
It is.
We don't know what they're doing.
I mean,
So
it's like, seeing some of these celebrities on the internet that you take these wonderful pictures, but then you find out a week later that, oh my gosh, they were just terribly unhappy. And of
yeah,
course, we all know what just recently happened. And it's like,
yeah, right.
so it's like, you just never know. And so I was thinking, though, too, with, that's good English. I was thinking, though, to people, because I've mentioned it to people out, before, but I've always thought that you get these other people, you were talking about them saying, get over it,
Yeah.
and you have these other family members that then they'll ask you how they are, how are your kids doing, or whatever. And I had a coworker recently, I was she didn't know a lot about the situation, but I was kind of saying I was having a difficult time because of this or whatever. And, oh, well, you just got to do what you got to do. You got to reach out to them. Don't let them do this. Don't let, and I'm like, oh,
Forget it. They don't
I
get
know, but it, it's hard to always be the one to do that. And even now, we're kind of always the ones to do that. Almost. I did get a message, a week or so ago, and we arranged a, conversation. We don't live too far away, but with, gas prices the way they are, we're all being a little frugal. So,
Mhm, mhm.
um, so I did get that recently. But, when other family members or friends start asking, that's really difficult. Sometimes either you
I don't
spill
think
your guts or you keep it
hmm.
all in and say, oh, they're fine. you know
It depends
so
on who you're talking to.
right.
Somebody in your inner circle and who know what's
Right.
going on, then you can share. But anybody outside of that, you just go, it's okay. It's still going on. If they know. If they
Yeah.
don't, we just go, no, they're doing well. Just say
Right.
they're doing well. You don't owe anybody any explanations.
Nope, that's true. And then just try to keep yourself, depending on where you're at with everything, keep
Yeah,
yourself together long enough to get
yeah.
that person away from you to,
As time goes on, I've been at this a lot longer than you, and
yeah.
um, after a time, you have a sort of acceptance of the situation, not a happy acceptance, not condoning it, not celebrating it,
Yeah.
obviously.
No.
But you understand that you have done everything you can, and it's time to just let that be. You just got let it be. The Beatles song, just
I
let.
was just gonna say my wife's a big Beatles fan, so yeah.
Me too. And that song, Paul McCartney in an interview said when he listens to the song, he was amazed at their wisdom because they really didn't have any,
Right.
So it has a lot of wisdom, and I listened to that song several times in the beginning years of this. I remember one time driving in the car, and I remember where I was. I was on Pacific Coast Highway in
Mm,
California, crying my eyes out just listening to that song. And oh my God, and every time I hear it now, I still get choked up because
yeah.
I I, I had something happen. You can cut this out. I'll tell you if you like it, keep it. I was in Ithaca, New York, and I'm not religious. I was brought up Catholic. I'm not religious. I am interested in spiritual matters and everything, obviously.
Yeah.
So I was standing in a church waiting for my childhood friend, who lived in Ithaca, and I was just standing in front of the altar. I had gone to mass with my friend, and mass was over. And people are sort of congregating, and I just stood in front of the statue of Mary, the Virgin Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a beautiful statue. And I was just looking at it because it was pretty, and I thought there was a tear going down her right eye. And I thought, how did they paint that on there? And it looked like a tear. And I'm very skeptical. I was
Right.
skeptical. So, and my friend came over to me and I said, how did they paint that? That's fascinating. She said, paint what? I said, that tear. She said, there's no tear there.
Oh my.
And trust me, I don't have these experiences.
Right.
Well, that's not true. I do. But I said, no, look, right down her right eye. It's coming down. Let's stand here. And she said, no, it's not there. There's no tear.
Oh wow.
And she said, because she was sort of clairvoyant, she said,
Oh.
Our Lady's crying for you because
Oh
you're a
man.
mother going through what you're going through.
Oh. No,
I
I believe that.
I saw it.
That's wild. That is wild. How interesting.
And
Yeah.
that gives me comfort because it's not a story I was told. I saw it with my own eyes. And I went
Wow.
back and I looked at it and I saw it and she did not see it.
Wow. That's
I believe
awesome.
in that kind of thing, but I didn't. And I'm the one who saw it.
Yeah. So do you I want to get to a little bit more on your book in just a second, but just so that we, wrap up with people really, gearing toward that. But it's always a difficult thing to think about. But with this happening, is there any positive things that have come out of this that you can think of?
Yes, many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm really glad you asked that because, we will never get over the loss of a child, whether our child is still living or not. We'll never get over the loss of it. We will carry that grief in our heart for the rest of our lives. I'm convinced.
Sure.
Unless there is a prodigal son moment when they come back and they are remorseful. So, but even then, how many years have they done this to you? And so there are so many positive things that have come out of it for me. I started writing. I started getting into my own soul work kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
My searching for peace despite the heartache. And now I'm not saying that this is a straight line, that this is constant.
Right.
I have a new sense of detachment, acceptance. I never call my son. I let him call me. And I'm not allowed to see the children. So I'm still like, all right, the hell with this. I cannot put my energy anymore into this.
Yeah.
I think the tendency for parents and grandparents is to put so much into their children and grandchildren that they don't live their own lives.
You mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I was going to touch on that.
Maybe they travel or they do things, but they don't get into their soul life.
Right.
And my soul was crying out for peace. And I got in touch with early childhood traumas, and I've been doing a lot of healing work over that. And I am in a really, really good place in my life. It doesn't mean I don't have, sort of outbursts of anger sometimes, and grief cycles in and out, and mild depression, and I still deal with it. But I know it's going to leave me. It's not going to stay.
Yeah.
And I've gotten stronger. I've become more courageous about who I am and being who I am, authentic. So a lot of good has come out of this. I'm so glad. Nobody has asked me that question before. But it's
cool.
Yeah.
Now, somebody, the last interview I did, as a matter of fact, just earlier this week, reversed on me a little bit too. She asked me if I had shared this with my son to let him know what I was doing, and I had. The first episode I sent to him. I listen, we're talking again. I want you to understand, and we had already talked at that point about some of the stuff,
Mhm.
and come to some agreements. And I just want you to be aware, because I was telling them the whole time when we were first talking again, there's so many people out there. I'm part of this group and this and that and whatever. And then I decided to start the podcast, and so I shared that with him. And so she asked me about it. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Nobody's ever asked me that before. But yes, I did share that with him. So
Mhm. Mhm.
do they have any idea that you've done these books or this book?
My son does. This is a pen name because
Oh, okay.
when I wrote it, I knew that if my daughter-in-law got wind of it,
Right.
there would be hell to pay for my son, and she would probably trash me on Amazon, and nobody ever buy the book, whatever.
Yeah. Makes
My
sense.
my son has held the book in his hands. He's proud of me for writing it, but he won't read it.
Yeah. Well, he knows. It sounds like he knows.
He knows.
He's in an unfortunate, impossible situation.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So I mean, not that that makes it any better or easy at all, but
It could
you obviously can understand,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Sure, I can. His father and I divorced, and he has that, dream of a white picket fence family thing, and I understand that.
It's so funny you say that, because I used to say that to my wife all the time. That's what I wanted. I want to always be here in case the kids want to come home and whatever. I had this the exact same words, white picket fence syndrome. Matter
Right.
of fact, so much so that one year she bought me, there's a little, I should take a picture of it to you and email it to you. There's a little white picket fence that she bought me. It's hanging on our wall in her.
That's so
So
cute. That's
yeah,
adorable.
yeah. So, well, so was there any, so, so when did you write the book?
Good good question. What year is this? Okay.
I know, 2022.
I think it's been out for 2 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And is there something particular that prompted you to do it at that time?
I think, I had been writing the blog, and I noticed that there
Okay.
was some sort of, um, evolution to my writing, because I took down half of it because of
Yeah.
I passed those points, and I realized that some of it was a little bit shallow, and I see that in early estrangement people, who are just starting out like, "Well, I'm over it, and I'm just gonna go on, and, and I'm gonna,"
Right.
and that was a little bit of my tone until I got into more years of having to go through all this, and I realized that's not what they need to hear. They need to hear that the pain is real. They need to hear that the grief is real, and that they're allowed to have it as long as they need to,
Right.
as long as they don't drown in it.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I tell people in our group too, when I talk to them, and I mentioned it on the podcast, that just you have to feel that stuff. You
Yeah.
just have to have some sort of balance, you
Well,
know.
there's cleansing in the tears. There is,
There is.
and even now, I heard a song. I wrote a song. I'm a pianist, and I'm
Oh,
going to
cool.
be recording music I've written on Monday. And one of those pieces was a piece I played for my son when he came for a visit. And about 2 years ago, I hadn't seen him for years,
Yeah.
and I played it for him, and he cried. And he tried to hide it, but he cried.
Oh,
I cry thinking about it. So that's the first one on my album. So we have a very deep soul connection, my son and I. We
yeah.
really do. And it doesn't mean I don't get pissed off, at how he's
Yeah.
treated me. But, he was doing a lot of drinking over those years too, and a lot of that was probably because of that. And but he's got to figure out himself. And
Sure.
it's not my what do they say, wheelhouse.
Right, right. Um,
I answered your question. I forgot your question.
what prompted it at that time to write
So,
the
yeah,
book?
so I realized that there were a lot of people out there who were starting to read my blog, and I thought, I'm going to get more organized. I've always written anyway, and
Yeah.
I just started doing, I started writing it. Before I knew it, I was like, oh my God, I would think of a word, like your voice, and I'd write about how you lose your voice
Yeah.
in these dynamics with toxic people who may be, responsible for the estrangement. So, God, it's intricate,
It is. It is so intricate
Mhm.
sometimes,
Really good.
my particular story is, uh, really not all that deep, but I've heard some that it's like, wow. I mean, there's so many different facets and different levels of it that it amazes me still sometimes
Yeah.
with
It,
some of these people's stories. And
they're unbelievable. Uh,
yeah.
I've heard a bunch too through my coaching, and I don't go out like the author of Beyond Crying, Cheryl McGregor, I think is her
Yes.
name.
Hmm.
Her second book she sent to me, and I read it, and this is why I'm surprised I forgot her name. And it was a lot of interviews and research and stories and stories and stories. So I personally am over the story part. It's like when you start Al-Anon. I spent a year in Al-Anon for parents of addicted children.
Mm,
Um, so when you're new at it, you have to tell your story. You have to.
right.
I mean, I had to. I went over and over to my friends, probably going, "Oh, is there a gun? I want to shoot myself." If she talks about
Right.
it. And, and I finally realized I got to stop talking about it. The
Yeah.
story. I'm energizing it. So I deliberately stopped talking. Now that doesn't mean that if something happens, like I didn't get invited to my grandson's graduation, that I don't call my friends up, and talk about it because
Got to vent a little bit and
I have wonderful friends who will.
get it out.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And okay, once I realized, okay, then I realized this is nothing new. This has been going on for 20 years with this woman. So get over it. Let's get on with the day. This sucks. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And, it is what it is.
It's good that you can. I mean, obviously, like we said, it's never going to completely go away, but at least you can have some sort of a life.
Yeah,
And
I am blessed with a good sense of humor, and everybody in my family is so funny. So I laugh a lot. I can't help it. I've just always been a laugher. So, and not fake laugh. I don't like fake laughing. But
I drive my wife crazy with, I don't come up with them, but I find them and they're funny. But a lot of the dad jokes. So, and she just rolls her eyes.
well, whatever makes you laugh, who cares?
That's it. That's it.
So
So,
important.
so obviously you've had some response to your book. Have you had parents reach out to you?
Yeah. Oh, a lot, a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, very much so. I thought when I got like it's Audible is monthly and then the book is quarterly. The whatever you make on it, and
Right.
I don't even know how much money I make. I just look and see how many books are sold. And my
Yeah.
first week, I got something, and I sold like 5 books. I went, oh, I sold 5 books. Now it's in the thousands. I'm
That's awesome.
absolutely amazed.
And that just means that there's so many people that need it.
My book is a little bit, well, it's quite different from anything else out there. It's more of from the heart of a mother and a
Yeah.
mother. It's very heart centered.
Well, I
And
could tell that just from the preview that I read
oh,
on Amazon. So,
cool.
yeah. So obviously it's on Amazon and Audible. Are there any other places that people can find it?
Barnes and Noble, and every now and then I see something pop up on the internet that it's on, but Amazon's your best bet.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you can return it if you don't like it.
do you
Don't
like
put anything back.
do like that about Amazon with some stuff? So,
Yeah,
um,
and I am writing a second book, so I will let you know when that's out.
awesome,
For a while.
awesome. Same basic subject matter, or
Same subject matter, it goes deeper.
cool.
It
Well,
goes
that'll
because with time, I'm a long hauler here.
Would you say 20 years?
20 years I've been dealing with her. Yep.
Wow.
And the contract was the first year,
Wow.
and then the ultimate cutoff was 12 years ago. So I had some time with the children in between, thank God.
Yeah.
But which made it harder because I knew them and we were, very.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You get to know them and then they're yanked away, so.
It's a terrible thing to do to the children.
To the kids, yeah. I mean, don't like me, okay, fine.
Mhm.
But, you're taking what could be a good relationship from, from them.
Oh, it's a wonderful relationship, and grandparents are so special in a child's life. Nobody loves a child like a grandparent.
That's true.
It's unconditional. It's so special, and they took that away, and I think that was the wrong decision.
I would agree with that assessment. So,
Mhm.
well, I really appreciate you coming on and
My pleasure.
sharing your insights with us, and I'm really excited to finish your book.
Get
And
Audible. Get Audible.
I will do that.
Be easier.
And do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with anybody? I know we've talked about a lot of things, but anything else that come to mind you'd like to end with?
Yes. Uh, I would encourage parents and grandparents not to lose their voice. There's a risk in being authentic and honest, but I lost my voice. I just said, okay, and I went along with the program and walked on eggshells because I saw what was happening and I was afraid it would happen. So I was like, always tight, contracted and nervous around my daughter-in-law.
Right.
And so I never spoke my truth. Had I spoken my truth, I probably would have been kicked out anyway.
Right.
So if you're being inauthentic and kissing ass, with somebody in your family to stay in the family or to keep that relationship, it's not going to work. You're taking either way, you're betraying yourself. And I guess I'm saying be true to you. You don't have to come down hard. You can just say that's something that I don't think I understand, or maybe I don't agree with that. Let me think about that. Rather, and if you're accused of things you didn't do, like I would go, I didn't do that. That didn't work either. So just like, oh, okay, I guess you see it that way. Okay, that's your opinion. There's a way to stay grounded in yourself and your goodness and your good heart, and don't lose that. And it may mean that you will lose the relationship for a while, if you're honest with them.
But I think if you're gonna lose it because of that, you're like
Gonna
lose it at some point.
Yep, exactly. So why add to it by being somebody you really aren't? And so many people do. They shut up. They don't talk. Okay, they're in charge. Okay, well, I get to see the kids, like the contract.
Yeah.
You just,
wow.
I know it would be. I know it's difficult, and I know there's a lot at stake. But if you at least hold on to your own sense of yourself, you'll feel like at least you did your best.
Well, and it's kind of like when, I was going to mention this earlier. It's kind of like when kids leave the house and you're empty nesters now. If you don't have some sort of a life of your own, then I think that's sometimes where parents, then they don't even know each other because their kids aren't around.
Yeah, that's a good parallel. And then the grandchildren come along and they put everything into the grandchildren.
Right. Gotta be something for you. So.
Exactly. Yes. So that's a good parallel. Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, again, I appreciate it. And we will talk soon. Good luck on your new book.
Thank you.
Let us know when that's out, and I will make certain and share that with everyone as well. So,
and I also have a blog.
Awesome.
It's grandparentsdeniedaccess.com. So you can, there's some free stuff to read there too.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. Well, I appreciate it, and we will talk very soon.
Okay, wonderful. And good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
So I'd like to thank Nancy for coming on the show. Please be sure to tune in next week to hear the rest of her interview. I'd also like to remind everyone that if you would like to be on the show, or you have some suggestions, or you just want to drop me a line, please feel free to email me at beyondthepainpodcast@gmail.com. Also, remember, if you're hearing this for the first time, you can find me on most of the major podcasting sites like Apple, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. And then I'd also like to remind you to please try to live beyond the pain.